Just relaxing.
Yeah, just chill out. Very,
Oh.
very not high at all. Just before you ask.
No, I wasn't going to ask. I don't think you were. You don't look. I did.
No, what do I look like? I mean, I look. I've seen myself. I've kind of avoided looking at myself, and it
Okay, I'll
gets.
be honest with you.
Yeah, don't be honest with
I'm getting sort of Yeti Bigfoot vibes. Who's like, I don't know, bit of a dreadlock vibe to you
me.
as well.
It really is quite the beards.
It's
The big
knotted.
buds, eh? Knotted. Oh yeah, it is. How can you see them?
Yeah.
You know why that is? Because I play with it around my finger. It's
Yeah.
just like a manly thing, a beard. But I sort of
I think you're going to be singing sort of Bob Marley tomorrow
no,
in Preston Park.
don't agree with that sort of music.
No, of course.
Like, no.
How are you
I
anyway?
didn't have a beard like this. This is more. Who had a beard? I like it when Liam or Noel grows a beard. They're very thick.
Yeah.
I
It's
like
not
them.
like Liam or Noel, I'll be honest with you.
I think I've got the singing. Did
How
you
are
ask
you?
how I am?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, well,
For
relative
once.
fine. Yeah, when was the last time I was on air? Well, you,
I don't
because you've
know.
done those I've often. About 2 months. You have a COVID, mate. Which
Are you how
meant
much
to be on
Morgan? I was gonna say, how long have you had COVID for?
for probably 9 weeks, 10 weeks. But they said
Yeah.
12 weeks is what they expect to see in the rare cases that it goes. My uncle had it quite bad, but for a week, it's not. I didn't die, but sort
I
of
can see that.
it might as well have done. But no, it's all right. You just get used to it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with self isolating, as you know.
Yeah.
That part.
You've been practicing it for years.
Oh yeah. No, but it's kind of Don't want to complain too much. I mean, let me turn that question back onto you. How are you? But just listeners remember how bad I was. So that's don't misattribute sympathy.
I love the fact we've done this before as well in another episode where we're both trying to outdo each
Oh,
other. Who's more ill?
I repeat myself. Yeah,
Competition.
but this is real. This is What
This is
would
real.
we have had in that episode? Just a cold and a
Well, I've got some
stomach.
better small talk planned instead of that, but we can move on to
Oh
that in a
no, I
minute.
wasn't. I was just for that. But
No, so anyway, no, to explain that everyone,
yes.
welcome to the D Trout Spinners, by the way. I'm Miles Pennell. This is Gary
Oh,
Forrest
I'm doing
astride me. I've had to bring it down, I've had the cancer.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had it seems a weird thing to say out loud and but yes, I had a routine not a routine operation. I felt something, as all men should go and have their parts checked by both themselves and then the medical professional. I had a few subsequent tests and turns out I had testicular cancer. So had to have one of them removed. It's been like we're both. This kind of explains our absence. So we weren't on holiday. I can tell you that we weren't on holiday. So it's been a bit of a long, sort of
You could
stressful
go away.
couple of
It
months.
wasn't. You would. You had that huge stress even at those times.
Yeah. So we've both been having various tests. Gary for his reasons, me for this reason, and now I think
I haven't gone that far. Like it's likely to be.
COVID don't generally. COVID, they don't chop off one of your testicles.
It did anyway. It took two.
Maybe our new comedy act should be like the three balls or something like that.
It reminds me of like Mitchell and Webb, the two duos. What are they called? But Chip and Pin. Oh, Chip and Pin and Fish and Chip. And what can we be? Bollock and
Northern Bollock. Anyway, so guys,
Ricky does do that campaign for a reason. I know he does it for a laugh as well. Probably. Do you feel that helped you, or would you have checked anyway? I think.
I mean, I've got health anxiety anyway, so I was quite checking myself pretty much every single day. I'm checking myself now.
They say not every day because you can't. You can't.
Of course not. No.
Weekly, you can.
But it was weird because the episode we've just come from after our absence, we were discussing this. So let's move on to lighter subject matter.
Could we?
So Gary,
I'm rocking. Keep that bit in.
Yeah, stop rocking your chair. He's in bed right now, ladies and gentlemen, because he has to be. It's like a little OAP.
I mean,
I don't know. I feel like you have a
loud out.
I feel like you've got a sort of Homer Simpson groove in your bed, and you've got a little towelette next to you to mop your
It was one of I've got this bloody hell sweating. I can't say that. Like I don't want sympathy after your thing.
It's all right. No. They're both different stories. They're both. We don't have to give a donation for that, do we?
Which say would like send you to swim with dolphins or something.
I don't like I thought of.
No, sorry, it's too much.
So
what the hell are we doing, Mars? What are we doing? No. Okay. We need to get back the dynamic that's we're famous for.
They've been waiting for this. Anyway, I've got 5 little things. What do you want to hear about? I've got 5 topics to lead us into the chat. I've got Polish wedding. I've got Rolling Stones. I've got new 20 minutes of XFM content. I've got Bruce Springsteen tickets, and I've got Pickles. Which one would you like me to tell you more about?
He's planned that because I know would have gone through that in his head.
Which one would you want me to talk about?
Delivered quite well. Like it was almost like a newsreader. I guess the Polish wedding you mentioned off air. The Polish.
It was very good.
It's a bit odd because I didn't get where you were staying. Like who owns it? Was it?
So we went to a place called. My girlfriend's Polish, and we went to this place called Chesterhover.
Is it like a village? Like an
Yeah, sort of like a little village type thing. Well, because it's got a small town. It's quite 5G, religious. Yeah, 5G.
All religious Catholic, I assume. Catholic.
Yeah. And so it was in a church, the wedding, and then we went down, and it was in the village. There was like a big sort of wooden hall. Oh, Polish weddings are really fun. They are the superior weddings. There's like live music from about 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. non-stop.
Oh,
and
God.
There's like, honestly, man, it's mental.
Is it Polish folk music that?
It's not folk music on little banjos and ukuleles. It's like proper like live fun music, and then you dance. Flutes? There was no flutists, and then you're served food throughout the night, and like food just coming out non-stop, and it's quite good. British people just have like or maybe a 3-course meal, maybe a buffet, or whatever.
Like a wedding, or just in general, like
a wedding party. So you can they kept drinking shots like a vodka. There's a vodka on every single table that keeps getting replenished throughout the night. So you're sort of drinking that. Everything was free, Gary.
Well, yeah.
All the food, all the booze.
I can't stand like the wedding where there's a free bar for an hour and then you've got to pay.
Yeah. I thought that was just a myth, but that is like a proper British thing.
Fucking, how you having a piss? I had to travel with. I had one where they served fish and chips at midnight.
Was it just a chip shop?
No, there was a meal, and then there was no, it wasn't just a chip shop. It's like for some reason it was like fish and chips. And she said, "Oh yeah, that's a lot of people do that."
Yeah, well, I imagine fish and chips are quite nice. I'd eat that at midnight gladly.
Yeah, but
this was great.
Food, once I tasted your sausage that you had for it's Polish. You always have Polish.
We're back to the Google, shan't we?
Yeah. Well, I've seen more than I usually do.
Let's not talk about that.
No, but it's lovely. That sausage, really good.
It's good, isn't it?
And they have potatoes, I assume, potato based in Poland.
Kielbasa, nice.
Could you an invite or?
My +1 was already taken, sadly, and I don't think we were in any shape to go. It was amazing. It was just such the best time.
You needed it as well, didn't you? Because
I think so. Yeah, it was good timing.
How long were you out there?
Yeah, I was there for a week.
And we haven't spoke with it. We haven't even just sort of spoke on Skype or seen each other for.
I know.
Weeks. We would have done.
It's going to be a short show.
So, haven't you got what's Pickles then? Right?
Okay, so I've been obsessed by Pickles recently. I don't know whether it's because when you get older...
You've got older. A week older than you were the
No, but your taste profile changes, doesn't it, as you get older. And you crave different things. And you're like, suddenly, I'm just craving, I just want to, sort of pickled goods recently. Anything in vinegar, I'll eat it.
You're listening to Women's Hour.
I'd love to do Women's Hour.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think if there's something I quite quickly like that. Sort of
onions, pickled onions.
I like bitter drinks.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, as a kid, I remember
like bitter lemon.
I'd pour sugar into my tea. Weren't allowed. It's ridiculous. But now I'd hate it. Yeah, I like bitter.
And it suits your personality. Yeah.
Broccoli, cauliflower. I don't have.
You're just naming vegetables.
I just things I like. Dominoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what pickles? Pickles can be anything. You could have pickled. Literally.
Like gherkins. Specifically gherkins.
Really, I used to love. In fact, I've gone the other way. I used to eat them all the time. I used to get jars of them.
And you don't anymore?
No, I wouldn't hate them.
You can probably overdo it, I think.
If I have a Big Mac meal,
oh,
yeah, then I have them. I still don't. I don't dislike them, but yeah,
I would gladly take them from someone's burger now and say I'll have them in mine. Cheers.
We'll do that, yeah, because some people actually. Did you hate them then, or did you
I hate them.
Yeah, are you pregnant? Possibly.
That's what so my girlfriend said. Anyway, so my last little anecdote is, and it is related to the show.
Well, hang on. Okay. You gave me 5, right? Is this
I have to tell you this one because it does relate to the XFM shows, and it is quite a nice little story. So, Matt and Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band are doing this big old tour in 2023, and they come to London for a couple of dates in Hyde Park, and there was a big old fuss online because they sold out
now.
Next year.
Is he? Oh, but is he going? Is he in America now?
He'll be starting in like America and then going to the UK. But Big Street, he hasn't done a tour for like, I think something like 6 years, maybe even longer than that. And then it's always a big occasion because he's huge, obviously.
Yeah.
And there was a big old fuss on Ticketmaster because they sold out really, really quick. And then they were ridiculous ticket touts. You know what they're like.
Does it give you a number and that's like in the queue?
Exactly. They started like, I don't know how they even do it, to be honest. It's got to be criminal. Anyway, I couldn't get the tickets, and I was really gutted because like I wanted to get my mum tickets because I kept banging on how good he is because I've seen him before. So I put a little shout out on Twitter, and I did like a little XFM because I was like fall on like Steve in series 1 where he's trying to get tickets, and I was like I'm really up against it. I put the hours in. I really need tickets for Bruce Springsteen. If anyone can help make my dream come true, get in touch.
Who are we?
Now, yeah, exactly. So with our meager 1,700 followers, or whatever. Anyway, 20 minutes later, a very kind gentleman called Matt Smith, he got in touch with me, and he said, "I've got 2 spare tickets that I'm willing to sell." Now, what are the bloody chances of that?
Did he sell it for face value?
He sold them. He was very lovely, very courteous gentleman. I spoke to him on the phone, sold me face value. So we did a little deal, didn't we? We did a little deal.
I know, more than getting the tickets, that would just make you feel like important.
It was amazing.
I felt
great. Anyway, I've been told I did promise.
I'm not going anywhere. He owed me that equivalent.
He only had 2 to sell. But anyway, so I promised him that I'd give his he owns a pub in lovely Devon, so I promised I'd give it a plug. It's called the Who'd Have Thought It in Yelverton, Devon. Do check it out. Put a link in the description if you're a Devon.
There, actually.
Shite.
So, I would avoid it. I'm joking, and that's lovely. That's really nice.
It's a great story.
What did you say? Did you ask for tickets, or did you like raise money? Like a GoFundMe?
No. I asked for tickets, said I'm willing to pay. I'm good like that.
Yeah, I noticed you withdrew £8 from my Patreon. I know it was so small.
I had to, but because you owe me money.
Oh, do I? I didn't know.
Yes.
No. Yeah. What,
£4 for Zoom? Yeah, you owe me some money for the Zoom thing.
But you haven't told me. I'll tell you.
I'll tell you now.
Okay, well, you just tell me.
You owe me about fucking £16 actually.
Why? Do I now?
I put it out. It's all right. We're sorted. We're square.
Right. Well,
square. It's all right, man.
£8. I should change the password.
Anyway, goodness me, God, we've been waiting for ages. Hey, do you want to do some XFM in the community?
No. Yes, I would actually. So you can't. We haven't been on air for about 9 weeks. Is it? You can't. Well, maybe we'll do 2 of these.
Yeah.
Or is there? Hopefully, there is enough for 2 shows.
Oh my God, Gary, we have got so much feedback. It's been so lovely. Thank you to everyone who has emailed us.
Thank you.
And also thank you so much, because I did put a little shout on Twitter saying we've both been a bit under the weather. So thank you so much for your support and your kind words. And we read every single email, and we try to respond to every single one. But your support, during this difficult time, because it has been difficult, I'm not gonna lie, it has been quite hard, and I've really missed podcasting with you, Gary, and I hope that you're better and we can get back to something that resembles normality a little bit, and make sure that these are a bit more frequent.
This is kind of like a tryout now, but I feel okay, but it's you'll get over a couple of weeks on.
Would you kindly on Twitter says, "Hey guys, wow, I've just discovered your XFM podcast. I have such fond memories of listening to the Gervais KP and Merch XFM broadcast back in 2002 whilst working Saturday afternoons in a trader shop stockroom.
That's
Episode
weird.
1. Here we go.
I was just because there's only one other who's listened at the time. No one else listened at the time. So he's saying he listened in 2002 on the radio. It's amazing. I wonder if he was like obsessed with it then or got into it.
I suppose you'd just listen casually, wouldn't you? Initially.
But you wouldn't think of it as like a cult hit, because
not all the time, because
you have the whole body of it to listen to.
Yeah, but that's when something becomes a cult hit, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it only did because it came out on podcast. Imagine if that person, whoever it was, only one recording, just didn't record, or whoever it was, because no one really listened at the time, which is why I'm interested in what's his name? Would you kindly?
Well, they go on and they say, I remember when I first discovered the radio show, I popped on XFM one Saturday afternoon and heard a mank and thought it was Noel Gallagher. About 8 seconds later, I was like, wait a minute, that's not Noel Gallagher.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I was drawn in. I've been listening to the shows ever since. The show's always got me into one of my favourite bands, British Sea Power. The song they loved was called Carry and Merch, and it was a real Bowie-esque vibe, and they really did play good music.
I've looked into British Sea Power, and I just listened to a couple of songs. I didn't really, quite a lot of synths. But the best thing I like when I looked at On My Horizon, and it's crap. Like, it's such a crap song. Ricky loves it. But in the comments below, this was before we messages over this, it just said, there's one comment, Smithers is a lump of shit, just on that video. And then people have been commenting like just random quotes. I was like, yeah, that's brilliant.
Well, the one that always gets me, I always feel sorry for Shed 7. Anytime they tweet something and it's like, you are joking.
I know. How many times can you do that on Twitter though? Because they announce quite a lot.
Turns out quite a lot.
Yeah. They should reply,
This is from Lorena.
But thank you. Would you kindly? What sort of name is that? It's like an internet name.
It doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want on Twitter, couldn't you?
Lovely message. Thank you.
Him slapping people off. This one's from Lorena, who has been in touch before. So she said, first of all, why? Second, how come? And third, how dare you? Was not asked to be on your little show, but I'm just an American. We can be annoying. No, I'm kidding. What a great episode. Not just because I agreed with what the ladies were saying, but because I'm so glad there are other women who listen to the RSK shows. Obviously, we haven't done any new episodes for quite a while. So this was the female listener episode that we special.
Yeah, that's good, yeah. But there was like a difference of opinion, I thought so. But I think we should do an American listener, or an American thing, like say Three Americans.
That's actually quite a good idea.
Yeah, because it's like they're kind of like women here. They're not kind of. It's not big.
Well, it could just be any Americans, couldn't it?
Yeah, or it could be foreigners, mad shit.
Foreigners, they're mad, aren't they? They're the mad shit they get up to.
Little Saudi Arabian fella. It's like our first person, like the first sort of stats we had.
So Lorena goes on. She says, you can get into a bit of a mess when you start asking questions like, why don't many women listen to RSK? Why do these women find the Three Little Fellas funny? And like one of the ladies said, it's not right when they say we need more women in these roles or jobs just to meet a quota. I do hate when I see things like first woman astronaut or first woman of colour, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think it's, it's kind of sort of positive discrimination in some scenarios works. But that's what a good American view that I would, not a wrong at all. It's just interesting, that's... Yeah. Like, I don't I hate the idea of, because it's a woman, we should celebrate. For example, over here, which we're going to have a woman, because a lot's happened politically. I don't want to get into that.
No, don't, because we get that criticism for that.
Yeah, but it's kind of, it means something, demographics. But it's not, no, I wouldn't pick a woman over a man just because of their woman. But if it's equal, pick a woman. I don't mean for a partner either. But they're never, it's theoretical because they're never exactly the same. But
so she goes on, you don't see like first man to actually, I can't think of anything, just hire a person who would be good job running the lighthouse. Men or women, blind or not. Anyway,
really good point.
I think the people who like the shows are a special sort of bunch. And I mean that in a good way, men or women and everyone in between. Gary was so engaged, asking all the right questions. I would have been the weirdo saying things like, Claire's episodes were good, but she's not the producer of the show, so she can't come up with the rubbish rockbusters like Carl. Ricky and Steve do show off for her, but it's only to compete with each other. And Ricky was gaga for Camfield, and Steve wasn't trying to impress him much.
Yeah, it was a bit, but yeah, Ricky was so like, because Ricky's like, he wants to be a muso, apart from everything else. Like, so yeah, he was competing. But Steve, yeah, I guess he was more relaxed with Camfield. But they definitely try and press Claire, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like, if you get a woman's episode, you can't say, well, how was the Claire episode for you? Because it's like they have an interest beyond Claire. But yeah, I'd love to do American because we've got enough. Because that's a different, they just do things differently. They're blunt.
Well, it's because like the differences between British and American comedy are quite profound, aren't they?
Yeah, but there's crossover. There is some quite absurd.
Yeah, of course there is.
Harry Hill's been on Letterman, but never took off at all. Like, people don't, like, he's not big, but he's not that big.
I think that's why it would be quite an interesting show because
Lorena, is it Lorena?
Yeah, and she goes on. She says, another thing, these last few episodes, Miles's voice sounded great. See what I did there? He's got a voice for radio. Gary's didn't come through as clear and sounded like he was in a box.
I probably was in an Amazon box.
Maybe it was just my ears, but it was definitely off.
See, this isn't even plugged in. I've got a microphone here that I'm not using, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm trying to.
No, you can't tell at all. I'm not a podcaster and don't know much about sound and buttons, just like hearing both of your voices equally. Oh, let's listen to Lorena's podcast when it comes out. You're probably already sick of me. She signs off. I'm happy to hear you're both feeling better. Sincerely, a female listener.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. That's lovely. Yeah, definitely American, because their perspective is that crossover with comedy. I think there's a lot of Americans who actually love, they're obsessed with British comedies. Yeah, you kind of don't, the cliche is like they like Friends, and they're not. It's more complicated.
I think XFM listeners are more intelligent than that. I don't think any of them like Friends.
Yeah, Friends is all right. I watched it.
I hate Friends. I hate that Friends becomes like a personality trait. It's like, you've always said you can judge someone whether they like The Office. Yeah. I know a Friends sort of person.
Yeah.
And I hate all of them.
Yeah, we know. Oh, you went to it was because I was at school. I must have been 15, 16.
We used to call them fun sponges, people who liked Friends, and
That's online. I've heard that term.
Oh, really?
Very different context.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it's kind of like if you're brainless, kind of you don't want to think. There's the early.
Yeah, that's okay.
But my friend Benjamin Higginson, obsessed. I mean, so obsessed. It was rubbish. Like from about halfway on, it was just no merit, but it was got really high ratings. Like Mrs. Brown's Boys gets here, but we'd never sell out.
I think it's better than Mrs. Brown's Boys. I'll give it that. At least.
I don't know, but we haven't watched Mrs. Brown's Boys. It might be great.
I think I tried it once.
Didn't he do a film?
Yeah,
I can't believe
they all do. Him, Keith Lemon, they all together. This next one is from Charlie B. Hi, gents.
Thanks,
First off, just wanted to say thank you for your continued output with regards to the podcast. You have created a homely, relaxed environment very similar to the XFM shows themselves. I'm sure everyone will remember the XFM show where Carl is having some work done in his flat and ends up slagging the builder off on air. The builder apparently asked Carl, that pub across the road, is it all right? This is such a great email. I loved it. I've been dying to say this one. If the story does take place on Percy Street, then chances are the pub in question is called the Marquise of Granby. I used to work close to the pub, and on my last day of work, me and a few friends went there for lunch. I can remember having a pretty decent posh fish finger sandwich and a pint of cider for 12 quid. 12 quid! It's what a bargain.
Pence are like about 80 quid just for the drinks. You drink food.
So for those still wondering, the pub isn't half bad if you fancy a fish finger sandwich for lunch.
I like that, but where does he get Percy Street? Is that like
she for a start, Gary?
Where does she get Percy Street?
So I think Percy Street is mentioned in the show. I do think so.
I can't think of it.
I can't think of specifically where it was, but for sure. So yeah, I'll put a little. I did find out the pub, and maybe we should do a live podcast there, or we should go there for on our lunch break.
Well,
and also, we are doing a live show at the RSK convention in September in Manchester.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if there's still tickets available, but can try it out. I'll put a link in the description.
I reckon
because we're going to do some live nonsense, some interactive games and stupid stuff like that. We're going to interview a couple of special guests as well.
I don't know if we should say like a surprise. Wouldn't they say?
I think let's not say anything. Let's keep it secret. But they are exciting. Yeah. I know who they are.
I'm not bothered. Do you know what I mean? No, they are very honestly. Well, we weren't. There was an Office podcast. So there is an Office podcast still going on. There's 4 of them. Well, they were going to be doing the evening or afternoon, but we've been put on double duty. So it's
you poor bastards.
We've got like 2 hours. There's quite a few interviews we're going to do.
I'm not going to touch a drink all day. I think I'm not going to last.
You know what? You will. Trust me. I know
have
you.
To. Anyway,
we can't start at 12. We need to start at like 2 or 3.
Yeah, need to moderate it. So the next emailer is Luke Berryman. Luke Berryman's got quite a long email, but I really didn't want to cut any of it because it's so great. But yeah, he said, "Hi Miles and Gary, I love your show. I stumbled across the Dickie Anderson's interview late last year, and I've been working my way through the rest of the catalogue since then. Although I'm a serious XFM addict, I'm not a radio person generally, and I've never got into podcast. Probably the highest compliment I can give to you is that the D-Trout Spinners is the first and only one I've enjoyed listening to besides XFM. So thank you so much, Luke.
Thank you. How did he find it? If he's not he's not into podcasts, how did he kind of?
If you search like XFM podcasts or something, we must come up at some point.
So would it be like where the people of, you get the XFM podcast and it will say people who like this also liked D-Trout. Would it come? Oh, well, that's cool. I'd love that. It must have done for him.
Well, because if you think it's just all SEO, isn't it? SEO rankings, mate. Don't worry, let's not get into that. I'm from England, but I've been in the US since 2016, and I currently live in Chicago.
Really?
There you go, Gary.
I'd love to.
America.
I'd love to live in the US. I plan to one day, and I just want. Yeah, does he say why? I'm interrupting. Well, you would have said anyway, but I just wondered.
Well, I might get into that. I began listening to XFM in late 2007. I've been listening to them continuously ever since. For nearly 15 years, they felt like a secret garden. There's something so comforting about them. No matter what's going on in my life, whether good or bad, they always restore my sense of balance. One of the nicest things about D-Trout Spinners has been the realization there are other people who depend on them in the same way. Here's just a comparison, just for Gary. There we go. You were like this.
Why?
It's you. Ricky Gervais is the Wayne Rooney of comedy. For despite his many achievements, his career is blanketed by the suspicion that he never really fulfilled the promise that he showed early on. The better you know XFM, the more likely you are, 1, know Gervais's whole output, and 2, dislike his later stuff. Hence, he's in the unique position of getting his biggest criticisms from his biggest fans. As a side note, I think it would be amazing if you analyse his really early work, not just the so-called XFM Series 0, but things like The Comedy Lab, The 11 O'Clock Show, and Meet Ricky Gervais. We might do that one day. That's quite a good idea.
The earliest thing I think I've seen of them, Steve's in it, and they're in a cafe, and it's like they're pretending they're Dot, Cotton, and Pauline or someone, and it's so raw, it's like they wouldn't, it's not that well written. You'd never think, well, they'll go on to write Genius. The Office, but they were all right. Like they were just, it's so early, and Steve looks about 13, just really, really tall. But yeah, that's the earliest. There must have been Comedy Labs, I guess. And there's one where Gervais is Bowie, like it being a business meeting. Yeah, we could do that when we've absolutely run out of stuff.
I don't think that's ever going to happen. The best explanation for this weird state of affairs and for his career's trajectory is buried in the Christmas special of Extras. Trey Cooper, Andy Millman's new agent, asks Andy where he wants to be in 5 years' time. Andy says, sat in my Hollywood mansion watching my butler polish my Oscar. If, as you guys said in a recent show, Brent is just Gervais without self-awareness, then Millman is just Gervais without luck. Extras is an autobiography of a less fortunate version of himself. Millman scrambles on the edges of fame before landing his own TV show, but it's ruined by short-sighted TV execs, a piss-poor agent, and for him, his friends accidentally upsetting important people. Its subtitle could be, There but for the grace of God go I. Incidentally, this autobiographical premise was lifted almost verbatim from the first season of Seinfeld.
Okay, that's going back a bit, yeah. What in what way does he say? I think I know the
for
first
me.
For me, it was kind of like they did a sitcom about a sitcom that.
Well, I think because it's got that whole meta narrative, Extras, because it's basically what would have happened if he weren't successful, as Luke's saying.
No,
oh my God, it so is.
It's not what Yeah, no, but it's not. I don't know if it's not got luck. It's more he puts it down to luck and the character. But
Yeah.
is it luck? It's supposed to, like, he's kind of misattributing stuff to luck. Maybe.
Well, he's saying
not.
as well. Well, Millman is just Gervais without luck, and fair to say, Ricky,
Yes.
as well as being very talented, there is with all of these like origin stories of famous people who rose through the ranks. There is a degree of luck. It's a perfect marriage of everything, but that is part of it for sure.
Just waiting for
So
some
I think
luck
that's a fair thing.
No, it's definitely
well, you got to leave the fucking flat first and start meeting the TV execs
no,
and stuff.
I wouldn't stream everything. No, it's kind of back then, 2002, and he's probably TV work started in about 1998. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't sort of the competition.
There was the internet.
At the same time, there were avenues. No, but it wasn't like there wasn't streaming. You wouldn't do this.
Yeah, but still, but look at but not this. But like AOL. Adele. Yeah, but if you think like people like Adele, Lily Allen, they all got famous big off MySpace. There was still a way to become.
Yeah, but Adele wasn't born in 1990. I doubt it. Or she was close. Maybe she was born in about 1990. But it was just that's when he started. So he had the Shaun of Dancing. So I always wonder, did that get him TV work? Because it wasn't that good. It wasn't like I don't look at it and think, oh, that's brilliant. I didn't really. I watched it at the time. I didn't. It was all right. Then The Office came, and it was like, wow. But he's like, he did these reports on Channel 4, and he was like, a lot of his attacks on the poor and the thick, and he's just angry. And it was all right. Nothing special marked him out, which is why maybe it would be good to go back.
I think Steve kind of unlocked it in a way. I think he deserves a lot more credit than people actually give him.
I think our fans give him credit, though, don't they, Steve?
No, they do. Yeah.
But the later fans, no, they don't. Gervais's new fans.
Yeah, that's probably true. Luke goes on. He says, for me at least, when that special aired in 2007, Gervais was saying, I've conquered TV and I'll conquer the big screen next. And to be fair, I believed he would. He was the brilliant enfant terrible of the noughties, someone whose unparalleled performance in The Office had made him the face of a generation. I'm completely unforgiving about everything that he's done since 2010. The levels of shiteness do vary. Some moments are less shite than others, but nevertheless, it is all shite. Life's Too Short and Derek, for example, would have never have made it anywhere near production were it not for the legacy of The Office. I actually agree with that. Definitely.
Not extras, me. I mean, extras is right. Like the extras, I love the outtakes of extras. They're amazing. But extras was never. I'd never hold him to. He has to do The Office each time. That's impossible. But extras was like it's quite. You like it, don't you? Most people.
Well, I remember when it first came out, everyone was hyping it, saying, "Oh, it's going to be. We're going to have all these famous people. They'll be themed around them." I genuinely remember, like. You had celebrity cameos in like sitcoms, but it was very like US based. Like I remember I was a big fan of Will and Grace, and not a week didn't go by where they had some sort of celeb in it. Maybe like Sex and the City, those like HBO shows as well.
So do they play themselves, or do they play other people?
Yeah, they play themselves.
They play themselves.
So that it's not like it was a new thing, but I do remember it being quite a new thing when it came to like British, because they were such huge American Hollywood stars, and that was quite.
Had you watched Office by then?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, because it's no, I wouldn't. Because it would have come out a bit younger, so a lot of people wouldn't have watched The Office, and then just extras.
The point that I'm trying to make is that it was still seen as quite a new thing, but maybe the novelty kind of wore off for some. Like I think that was a big criticism for a lot of people. Was it just felt like a bit gimmicky?
Yeah, it was like they picked a celebrity and they were fitting them into the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
In The Office, the narrative into the whoever, they didn't have celebrity cameos
into the story. Well,
yeah, they kind of had the Finding Leos. It's funny, when
that's so funny. That's the best. That's one of the best clips they've ever done.
It's just they're drunk, but not really drunk. They're kind of it's sweet on champagne.
I haven't spoken to him in a few years.
Yeah. But I didn't. It was okay, extras, but it never got made if it wasn't The Office. But he deserves those chances. Even now, it's like Derek or Life's Too Short. Most of our fans would probably not really like it. Whereas I think the extras, it was okay.
You've said fans a couple of times. Just got to pick you off on that. I wouldn't say. I'd say listeners. Don't say fans.
Leave it in, right? I know, but you hang on. You totally do that more than me. I usually
absolutely
say,
not. I'm humble. I'm Mr. Humble Pie.
What do you want me to call them? Like fish?
Listeners. Little fish.
Yeah, listeners, I assume if you're listening, you might be a fan, but I won't say it. But yeah, you probably, a lot of them like extras, and life's too short. That's generally well liked amongst people that I see online.
I've never understood why were they so fascinated with Warwick Davis? Like, what was his appeal?
No, I think it was just Carl's fascination with generally.
No, Carl wasn't in it.
No, but I'm saying that Carl's in the show.
No, I know, but why would you make that connection? Just because Carl liked little dwarf feathers?
Because they put him with Carl in the other series of Life's Too Short, didn't they? They kind of wanted to see him, and then
I've always thought it's just such a shame that they didn't do things that were just a bit more earnest and about them, as opposed to just latching on to. As much as I love the XFM shows, it did become a bit like the Carl Pilkington show, didn't it? And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's definitely a bone of contention when you're picking them up on his TV work. I wish they'd done something that was a bit more. I think Cemetery Junction could have been so much better than it actually ended up being.
I saw Kermode's review and it was quite poor. So I didn't.
Yeah, but it could have been much better. That's what I'm saying. It had potential to be much better. No, I hated it. Boring.
Was it a comedy? Because it's supposed to be.
They described it as like a sort of feel good, coming of age sort of comedy type thing.
Because by then Gervais, I think, had done on his own The Invention of Lying, which again was planned. I thought it's rubbish.
But that's The Invention of Lying is basically like those old noughties and late 90s Jim Carrey films that were just all based on a simple premise, like Yes Man, or I can't even think of another one like that.
Jim Carrey's legitimately funny on his own.
Yeah, Jim Carrey's amazing, but I'm not comparing the two.
No, totally good. I know. I'm saying it's a good.
I don't think Gervais isn't leading man material by any stretch of the imagination.
Trying to be, you're saying.
Yeah.
I think, I know, I've read a story like he was really angry at a couple of extras that were quite old, and they just, he thought they were just extras that were paid, and they'd actually won a competition to be extras on the show, and he really had to go at them in front of everyone.
Really?
But it was him that told that story, to be fair, so he was, self-aware. But I can imagine that. I can imagine him being horrible to work for. If he's, especially over the years when he's less and less laughing and funny, and, The Office seemed, like, with Tim, those scenes were legit funny, but now I can see him being do you know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, I know.
And if he worked with Carl, it's not that he became the Carl show. It's more that Carl, they made it. They planned different bits for Carl. Carl works when it's just it comes out without planning, and they planned it. It's noticeable. We're on series 4. It's all right,
Which we'll be doing that hopefully next week or something. So I'm going to go on with this email because it's, as I said, it's quite a lot. Yeah. I'm now around the same age Gervais was when Series 0 was broadcast. It's an age when many people start doing boring things like pay for a mortgage, mark decade-long work anniversaries, and pick primary schools for their kids. Fame must be surreal for everyone, but I think it should be said more often than it must have been completely fucking mental for Gervais to go from a string of failures, Shaun the Dancing, Meet Ricky Gervais, etc., and losing a decent job at a local radio station when XFM got bought out, to can't leave the house famous within a few years, all in his late 30s, early 40s. Which is to say, Ricky Gervais's apparent laziness is actually fear. This is interesting. Fear of changing the only formula that's ever worked for him, saying offensive things that he doesn't really mean under the guise of irony. He shows no sign of the bravery required to challenge himself by moving away from that formula. He just repeats it endlessly, and the more he gets criticised, the more plainly he repeats it. Compare that to Steve playing the grinder killer, or to Carl's appearance in The Thief, His Wife, and The Canoe.
There is a slight exception to that, and it's something like CSI Miami or something. Like he did do a series, right? It was like the first thing he'd done non-comedy, but it was just a one-off. I don't know. I've watched a clip of it. It was weird, so weird to see him do something serious. But
what about this notion of fear?
I think so. Yeah, changing. That's what Afterlife's about, because he's kind of the same ideas, Whereas, Steve's show, what's it called? Steve, The Outlaws. Legit good idea, and he's kind of got experience of it from his parents, but I can't see Ricky Afterlife is different setting, but it's everything that Ricky likes, the obvious kind of emotional drawn.
Reminds me of It reminds me of
who would have predicted though Steve to do the Outlaws? Like I'm just saying, like it's like you'd never have predicted that. Steve.
Well, who would have predicted that Ricky would have turned into this who he is now? I don't think I could have predicted that. I thought he was gonna. He's so different. But anyway, my point is, do you remember that joke in Buzzcocks when Simon Amstell's in the glory days of Simon Amstell? Even I like Mark Lamar as well, but he says they're talking about Jo Whiley, how she's still kind of on Radio 1, and it's like that age where you graduate from Radio 1 to Radio 2, and she's like, and Jo Whiley's there, and she's obsessed by new music, and she's like, I'm just gonna listen to this new music, and he says, I think it's some sort of elixir to keep her young. And he goes, I'm just going to listen to new music and I'm going to stay young forever. And then he just points to the camera and he goes, you're going to die, Wiley. I just thought that's like, you're going to die, Wiley. And it just makes me think of Gervais just going, you can't just keep doing the same thing. You're going to run out of ideas eventually.
No, well, I think Gervais has always been Radio 4 and wanted to be Radio 4 and kind of wanted to be Radio 4 more than he actually is. That's
I want
the
to be
one
Radio
time
4.
He gets genuinely upset. If you're listening to Radio 4, that's Radio 3. I don't know if that do anything. No, but Gervais kind of, he's not like, where he's genuinely bitter or upset is if he feels like he's been challenged, say, on science, but even not challenged on art. Like Carl's not even challenging him, but because it's like, I think he wants to project knowledge now more than comedy, and he does know a lot, but he doesn't know actually enough to know to excel
to sustain it. Yeah. No,
right, whereas Steve interviews generally going to be more interesting. Gervais would kind of say the same, but just not have the humor. Like he'll do the laugh, but it just feels. Do you know what I mean? It feels like force.
He's diversified. He stretched his wings.
Steve has. Like really, because the Grinder Killer, that's a hard role,
Yeah.
Someone else has done serious acting. And he did it well.
You could say he's kind of made for it. I mean, just look at
But he will know that. Like, he'll be the first to admit that. That's the thing. Yeah. Gervais looks brilliant for his age now. Now think of Gervais then.
He looks good of hair then.
Yeah, I do actually. I like him. But I've seen him. He does these shots topless. Like, and he's generally. Can you imagine? Not only, obviously, he wasn't as tall, but him even caring or trying to be kind of topless in a good way. He would always make fun of his looks, and I think it changed. He's got he looks good, and he obviously works out. It's not as simple as that to say, well, he's not funny, but it kind of does correlate downwards with that. It just has to be, and they make the same point on the show. I think they joke about it, like you're funnier when you're sort of fat, and kind of true. It's not that you lose it automatically, but kind of he cares more about that now. So he'd rather kind of do an interview and look like physically tall and look intellectual than he would to be actually funny and how he can be. It's frustrating.
There's a brilliant couple of bits that I don't know. Did you ever listen or read Bob Mortimer's autobiography?
A bit of it. But no,
there's a brilliant bit where he talks about presenting the sort of boxing show that they talk about in the show. How he gets into when Ricky gets into shadowboxing. There's a brilliant little bit where Bob's saying he's trying to help Ricky sort of prepare, and for some reason someone had pulled out, and Bob said, "Well, I'll fight her then." And they jump into the ring, and he says, Ricky's a bloody big guy. He says he was so scared about being the shit out. You've got skinny little Bob Mortimer, like back in the early 90s, this is, or late mid-90s.
As well. He's
so then you got fucking Joyce. But I have to say, on your note about Afterlife and Gervais' subsequent direction, there is a fantastic review of Afterlife Series 3, and this person's done both part series as well. He's called like How 300 on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description, but he did this amazing review. It was for about an hour, and I mean it's complete echo chamber stuff because it's just criticism that you agree with, but he's very pointed and his observations are very sharp, and he just gives a critique of the Afterlife Series 3, but very, very funny as well. And really well edited.
That's really good because we kind of criticise it, but we haven't seen it all.
This is much better. Anyway, let's talk about this email.
But I want to see that. I assume
I'll send you a link, my friend. Yeah, I think he's fair. definitely.
You gotta
Because he does a lot
give
of
him
comparisons with, he does sort of compare it to other comedies, and you know, these are people who want to like the stuff. They're trying their best. Gervais just isn't making it easy. Anyway, Luke wraps up his email by saying, perhaps to veil the poverty of his material, Gervais is trying to rebrand himself as an edgy stand-up who doesn't care if he offends you. But he stopped being edgy years ago. On the contrary, he's become terribly predictable. The moment he starts talking about trans people, for example, you know exactly what the punchline will be. Ironically, the thing that offends me most is how bad his work has become. Afterlife is the worst thing he's done. It takes place in a sickly, sentimental universe where the bereaved chat with gravestones and terminal cancer patients somehow have the energy to record hundreds of hours of banal life advice in secret. To advise such childlessness as something profound is just insulting. And then you start to wonder, had Steve never met Ricky, I think he'd still have become a successful screenwriter and maybe an actor too. Had Carl never met Ricky, I think he'd still become a successful radio producer and maybe on-air personality too. But what would Gervais have found success were it not for his fortunate crossing of paths with the two of them? I'm no longer sure of the answer to that question, and in his heart of hearts, I don't think he is either. Is there any lemonade? He wraps up by saying, that is such a brilliant email. So well constructed, really interesting talking points.
If I interrupt a lot during your email, that's a good sign, because I'm kind of like,
yeah. What do you make of that?
He's not, I wouldn't say Gervais doesn't care about being offensive. It's part of it. He's trying to do, like, he's deliberately doing it. And you can do that with good, but be funny. And parts of his stand-up, what was the one we reviewed? It wasn't rubbish, but yeah, it's not just that now he doesn't care who he offends. He deliberately, it's for offense. He wants to be with that crowd. And part of that is, I think, to protect himself, because he knows all this stuff from the XFM shows out there. But now, by now, it doesn't matter if he came, like loads of people, I don't know, people reported on it and, like, you know, Beyond Us, you know, heard it and thought, oh, it's terrible. He doesn't, that's fine. He's insulated himself because he's got an audience that are clearly to the right, sort of, I'm not, that gateway. So they wouldn't leave. I'm more offended about, yeah, it's offensive, but just this C word, if you throw that in just for a laugh because of the word, and he does, I've seen it, like there's a scene in Afterlife, I think, where there's a boy and he uses the C word as well. You know, like, that's the word. Yeah, he was the last person who you'd think would do that. You think right in the office. And yeah, he was lucky that Steve came along, but I think he's did do a lot of the talent. It wasn't just Steve. Like Steve, we know, probably put in the emotional pull, because I haven't seen Gervais do it since. But I disagree that Carl would have been a radio personality completely through his choice, not because he's not, you know, able. I can't see it happening. I know it just, I think he would he'd be happy sort of in his little room. He'd already made it to the top. He was only about 28, like his head of production. Maybe he would have been on a bigger radio, BBC or something, but there's no way Carl he would talk on it with other presenters, but no, it was because of Gervais. No, it's still Carl's talent, but it only would have happened in that exact kind of dynamic of the three of them coming together. And you know, that's what I wouldn't want it now. I'm not interested, because it's just, it was, the whole point was, you know, it was new and unplanned and fresh, and Carl's fine. I would do that. I would enjoy my money, you know, but he's not bothered. We have asked him a couple of more times to do this, to do an interview, but that's like fine. He's never shown any sort of ambition, and I think it's ambitious to have done his own sort of little sort of sitcom, you know, where Steve's done loads of films and stuff. They've all done well, and Ricky, like, somehow the audience ridiculously high, and I don't. People I know who I thought good senses of humour, they love it, but it hits all the. It's like if you wrote a manual to be like, you know, an emotional comment. Like he never The Office would never have come from a manual. No. This is like just little things like the tracking shots they have behind the bench.
But that's a very good point. That like there's no distinguishable delineation between each episode. They are literally carbon copies of one another. And there's no variation at all. They are literally designed and emotionally mechanically designed to make you feel things at certain points. It just feels manipulative. It feels so cynical and contrived, and I think he's better than that, and it's a shame.
We see it off other people, and I've seen that Brendan O'Carroll, like he on a panel show, he was actually funny, like he's a funny guy, but it's like Ricky's in reverse. He knows better, but he also knows what makes money and what a lot of people, what's the sort of simple thing,
people are stupid.
Writing. Huh?
People are stupid, like Superhand says. People voted for people like Coldplay and voted for the Nazis. You can't trust people, Jez.
Yeah, no, it is true, because he biggest sort of comedy on Netflix, which is huge. I saw an interview, I wasn't looking for one, it just came across about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was outside this huge, I mean, it was like, what's the Hampton Court Palace? It was so big, and he was like, yeah, this is what Netflix built. Like, this came just from Netflix. That was only after one series. So he doesn't need to do that, because he turned down adverts. It's not greedy, but he's like, he wants that sort of mass market audience where, I'm not saying they're not clever, but they're not people who don't want to try. They just want to, they want to be shown a gravestone when they're sad, or have a joke that's really, that he's done, that is old.
But my point is, if you want that stuff, if you want that, I don't know, that look on life, or there are better shows available. I recently watched, Big Boys on Channel 4, a show that talks about mental health, talks about sexuality, talks about, loneliness and, navigating your 20s. And it touches on all of the similar issues that Afterlife does, grief, etc. And it does it in such a better way, and I bet how many people watch that compared to Afterlife is just a fraction. And you're like, these people are new and emerging, exciting writers that are being overshadowed by Gervais, who was once a brilliant talent. I'll give him that, because he was, and he's still a big hero of mine. But I think he's got to sort of, I don't know, make way a bit, because there are better people out there.
It's not make way, it doesn't need to make way. He just needs to make something that's kind of clever. And the way he kind of sidelines Steve and just never talks about him in interviews is telling. I think it's sort of, he doesn't feel he needs to, because he did the Brent thing. And Steve wasn't, he didn't involve Steve, and he thought he could do it. And he can write, the songs are fantastic. Those little set pieces, they're funny. But as a film, it was, the bit I watched, it was just not. It was it lacked Steve, but he didn't think that. He obviously thought, it doesn't lack Steve, I can do it on my own. And that's kind of, his attitude. But I think he's a funny guy. And that show that you watch, I haven't watched it, but
and you probably won't.
1/20th. I will. I've got about 28 shows that you've recommended me. But no, but I'm sure, it has an audience, clearly. But in some ways, he's earned it because of The Office was so good. He's not doing it for money. I think it's just to get the numbers up and sort of.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, you go on his Twitter, it's like most streamed comedy, still overplayed, best fans in the world. Like,
yeah, and their fans are so dedicated.
Tribal,
they won't hear anything
tribal
about it. But I don't understand, because we would, I would have been, but I judge things on their merits.
I thought you were going to say D-Trout Spinners fans are mental.
Well, I'm not, there's no fans apparently, there's only just listeners. It's almost like, I think he wants those fans to kind of, because of the tweets he puts out about.
But I think that's a reflection of just like modern culture, for instance, because you kind of are. That is sort of the social currency that we're working on now. It's, Twitter followers and likes and watches. And after a while, it is addictive. You get hits, that sort of dopamine hit, but I think it can be obsessive. It can be addictive as well. And I think he's got caught in that. I get addicted to Twitter. I think there's a number of people who listen to this show who'll be addicted to endless scrolling on Instagram or whatever, because it is. It's a fun little leisurely thing to do, but you will get sucked into that wormhole. And if you are already, pretty famous, I think, and you've got that ego, I think it's going to enable you even more.
Do you think, though, that kind of, because, the lower level, most people are, but you just don't, you see all the bigger accounts by nature of the fact that their tweets go further. But would he care that much about numbers for the sake of numbers? I think he cares about getting the right way. He's looking for a kind of, he's not right-wing in many ways in how he expresses it. He knows he wants to pick up an anti-PC brigade. And there's some merit, it's not totally ridiculous, but he goes to one extreme with it, and I think he wants to pick up he's not really bothered about numbers, because you always see it about 13 or 14 million. Maybe it is addictive. Like for him to get 20,000 followers in a day, maybe that's the equivalent of us getting, one
Gary,
or two.
he could tweet an emoji of a fucking dolphin and rack up about millions and millions of likes.
No, they do, but I've seen him get, much less, maybe 20,000. I mean, I was not comparing to figures of any lower accounts, but he doesn't always get likes. It tends to be the ones about that are a little bit political. He just enough politics in certain interviews, and
they come like less. But
without. He's got he always keeps plausible deniability. And I do believe that it's real, that he's not right wing, and he's expressed, views that clearly aren't, but he definitely stokes that little fire, and he knows that's where the money is. That's where the audience are. There's far more audience on the right now. 2008, totally different. It was the left online. The right were nothing. They had no presence. Now I've seen people switch from left to right to make money, and we've asked him on the show, but Russell Brand, totally. I see that as more cynical than Ricky. Like Ricky, at least, kind of isn't. He just hasn't been as like blatantly. Just totally unethical. I've totally lost respect for Russell Brand. Russell, if you're listening, get in touch, because we'd love to interview you. But no, I think Ricky leaves plausible deniability all the time, because he doesn't feed into every right-wing sort of trope, but he absolutely wants that audience, and partly maybe to insulate him, as I say. So, but because he did The Office, okay. I'll even allow him, and I do allow him, but I can fairly critique his work. But as you know, Mark, we do that.
Absolutely.
Even this, we will lose. Like someone will email and say, "Well, can't touch him."
Do you know what? We haven't done this show for a long time. I've forgotten how long and rambly your rants can be. He thinks it's Mark Kermode, ladies and gentlemen.
Every word, mate.
I'll keep it in. Anyway, guys, I've got one more little correspondence, and then I think we'll call it a day. This is from Kevin, and it's been very. This, no, me too, man. Let's just but let's finish it. This one's from Kevin. Hey guys, my name is Kevin. I'm in, and I've got to run up and jump to this one. I'm in Guelph, and he said pronounced Guelph. Gwelf. That is correct, isn't it?
My main worry that he was going to be in Pakistan or India or something, and you were going to butcher like it.
I was going to say Guelph or Guelph, but I think it is Guelph.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right. If this makes it onto XFM in the community, which it has, he is from Ontario, Canada. I'm a huge fan.
About 5 years older than when he sent it. Like,
yeah, probably since our show's gone out. I'm a huge fan of the Ricky Gervais XFM shows. I began listening to these shows back in 2013. I was splitting from my fiance at the time, and these shows helped me tremendously. I would pop them on, and all the BS in my life would float away. It's amazing how three goofballs on a Tin Pot radio show that many years ago can still be so impactful. I stumbled on your podcast as it was recommended on Spotify whilst I was re-listening. Yeah, there you go, mate. We're re-listening to the XFM shows. You guys do such a great job. I love to listen to the show you're writing your love letter on, then listen to your podcast. The commentary is great, the insight is spot on, and I really enjoy your favourite quotes. I generally have many of the same lines as my favourites. I just wanted to reach out to say thanks for doing these shows. I'm a big fan. So thank you so much, Kevin. That is brilliant. I'm so glad we're getting new listeners every single day, because I don't know how people find this show. It's always amazing to
me. People who said this, but that will be the only one. We're not going to come on anything else except the XFM show. No, Kevin, funny months, because we both went through big breakups in that year. I don't know if you remember. I think it was that year.
It's bloody true, actually.
Really, and it was like, they were kind of longish terms, but we weren't engaged. But it's funny, that was that time.
Well, I do always find it quite enjoyable that our relationship was founded on mutual dissatisfaction in long-term relationships.
Terrible, but
we've moved on long since then. I'm in a happy relationship. Gary's single.
No, I'm happy single.
Oh, yeah.
The reason my bed squeaks, which you might have heard earlier, is not because of dual usage. It's just, it seems that way. No, it's a little bit about 3 miles. But yeah, no, it's kind of, but we were both like, they were unhappy. I
remember unhappy times, but
we didn't bond just over that. We bonded over the office and other things.
Of course, and we also had a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, Kevin, why didn't you get in touch? We could have done a trio sort of thing.
Ménage à trois.
He could have interrupted me on my
Well, Gary, I'm going to wrap things up because I am bored of talking to you, my friend.
I think I've done all right. But like, tramadol really helps. So I think I can do this probably next week. But no, but it's good. Yeah. Can I? Any sympathy for me?
Who do I?
No, anyone else. Well, you could, or listeners.
We'll wait till the emails come in next week.
I've just been for a lot, No, I'm really.
No, you have though.
I know.
You have.
No, yeah, I'm joking. I like to joke because it's self-deprecating, of course. But I'm okay. It's it's hard to talk. But actually, I think I've talked quite a lot.
So whatever, you can say that, Gary. But I'm missing one testicle, so whatever.
I don't know. It's like, it's kind of, do you have is Ricky, like, Ricky's genuinely legit, I'm sure, cause people who wouldn't do that to go to the doctor. So would you because that would be, I'm just,
look, we've been waffling on for ages, but I will say this as some parting advice, and God knows I'm not the person to give it, but since this is a recent experience and quite new to me and a little bit scary, quite frankly.
You've done really well. Mate, yeah.
Thanks, but no, I would honestly, if you're a guy and you're listening to this and you are worried or you're you don't check normally, do definitely check, because it's quite common in younger gentlemen, as I learned from my sort of wider reading, and people don't get it seen, and I honestly lived in my little bubble. I thought everyone analysed themselves and inspected themselves, but they don't do it. They just let it, and people are scared of going to the doctor still, and people are afraid of wasting NHS time, and people just let these things fester and go on. And there's a lot of reasons why for that. People are scared of taking time off work, or they don't think it's a problem, or they think it's showing weakness, and I just don't think it is. I think it's a load of old nonsense, and people just really need to look after themselves. Your health is the most. Ricky says one of the most important things, where he says charity is, it's not fair. So you can change the little things you do in your world. So being money, you can always make money, but your health is so important. If you lose that, it's the first thing to go. And I'm going to be okay. I've got to have a short course of chemo or whatever, but I'll be okay. But it's
you got it early, didn't you? That's and it's
important.
You were checking. I know how much you check.
Exactly. So, and
every day, possibly every week, I've heard is good, because you can notice more if you're checking every day. It's hard to notice very slight difference.
Yeah, but it's the same for women, like I was watching a Hannah Fry documentary which talked about cervical cancer. But men and women don't get private areas seen. People just put off these things. They put off these inspections, and it can be intrusive and it's uncomfortable. And also people are let's be honest, people are sometimes a bit lazy. And anyway, my advice is go get yourself checked out, because your health is very important, and you never know. You never know what's going on beneath your skin, because your body's so complicated. And I've always been scared of like the C-bomb, and
of course.
And when it does happen, it's but I think it'll be all right. And you've been great, man, and very supportive. And
because but we've kind of spoke less than we normally would, in a time where we kind of would more so. But he's done really well. Like you don't have to. It's not like a test, but
no, but it's true.
Did it really well. Just get it seen, because the worst that it's going to be okay. Even if you get it removed, and usually it won't be that, but sometimes it will. And it's the most survivable. And women with the cervical, they have the yearly things, I think, and that's partly because of Joe Goody. Like they changed the age on that, and it did.
It was. I remember.
You added your little bit. More. You might get one person check, even maybe that didn't. You did well. You spoke it well. Yeah, I like it. You didn't plan that. I just asked you.
Cheers.
Really well. No,
what are we doing next? What are we doing next FM now? Let's bring it back up again.
Like, heart attack and stuff. Well,
heart attacks next week.
I was earlier this year. I just had like an overall check, and they did a little thing, and it comes up. She showed me on the screen and I was just slightly overweight, but basically they said, okay, we've calculated your risk of a heart attack over the next 10 years, and it's 3%. Okay, I don't know what that. Fine. That seems about all right. I don't know if that's good. She said it could be better.
Seems about right.
It was totally not a medical problem. It was just that, they checked it yearly. And I thought, but she's just the little man balloons out slightly. About 2 kilos. Anyway,
you'll be all right.
I'm just going to speak now for about 45 minutes on these Dunkirk landings and the politics behind it.
Well, let's not do that. Hey, so I think when we last convened, we were up to series 4, episode 2. So we'll be doing episode 3 next time we do an episode. We've got Edinburgh next week. I'm definitely going. Gary's TBC because I know you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't leave.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But Edinburgh kind of is where we'll do some shows in Edinburgh if we go. And if we don't, we'll do those on either side.
Exactly. So good, free and easy.
Put the link in of what we're doing in September to buy tickets because he keeps saying, I
definitely do that. Anyway, cheers, guys. Thank you for listening. Also, do head over to Patreon to support us or buy us a coffee at Ko-fi, and I'll put all of the links into the description. Please continue to like, support, rate, subscribe, and all that other nonsense. Join us on Twitter. That's spinnerspodcast@gmail.com, and tweet and email us.
Really got through.
spinnerspodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch all in the ways, and you could be featured on XFM in the community to a really small pool of listeners, but it's still quite nice, and it's nice to know you're not alone.
Well, no, you got £8. I didn't. I'm sort of like.
He's still thinking about the £8. All right, cheers, guys.
Has anyone done the Ko-fi? Anyone apart from the one person?
We've had a few people, but we could do with more, right? There's always more. If you want to buy us a drink for Edinburgh, that'd be nice.
We want 6 figures a month.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.